U.S. intelligence agency mind control.
Okay.
Not yet.
Look, nuns. Nuns
Okay.
don't work on Sunday.
So, this I was watching just before we went live. There was a specific part I wanted to show because it was very interesting. I wrote it in the chat.
Wake. There we go. That's what it is. Wake. Not wake. Wake. This
Sure.
person gets it. It's the spirit. It's the spirit of the walk.
And declared that
Okay.
democracy.
First of all, I'll get the introductions done because the people who speak, I had no idea because I didn't listen to the introductions. So we'll get the introductions so we know who's talking.
Why are the nuns there? What's this lady's shirt behind her?
I don't think they're nuns.
Is it like a treasure map?
At the US election in November. And when Australians go to the polls next year, there will be our trademark democracy sausage, as well as growing tide of confusion and information and downright lies.
I will not explain.
On social media. So are we facing a crisis of democracy? David Runciman is here for that conversation. He's a former Cambridge Don turned podcaster who warns of rising
feng shui, you know?
Populism and the undermining of institutions. Roxane Gay is an American writer and commentator who says Kamala Harris's candidacy has given her license to re-engage and dream about the future. George Brandis is an academic at the ANU. Prior to that, he was the High Commissioner to the UK and Australia's Attorney General. And he's the Federal Minister for Youth and has a background running programs that counter violent extremism. And Keith Wallahan is a former barrister and Army veteran who is now the Liberal MP for Menzies.
Holy shit. I should have listened to the fucking intro. We could totally watch this whole thing, I reckon, but we're not going to.
In Victoria. Welcome to QandA.
Great.
Own it and run it.
They're happening in classrooms.
Here we go.
Jessica, I just want to get a better sense from you.
It's
What
the
sort of
Prime
conversations are
Minister's
happening in
dick on a
classrooms?
platter.
What have you
It's like
observed?
they open the pizza
more
box and it's got a hole in
extreme
it.
It's more the fact that, so I'll firstly say
Oh,
that
she asked question before as well. Okay, because this is the girl I wanted to start with. This girl's question.
increasingly concerned about the role of social media as the primary source of news and the subsequent spread of disinformation.
And guess what? Perfectly related to what we do.
Don't talk to me about the English translation, okay? No. Wake is the magic. It's the spirit. It's the magic of the walk. Okay?
Yeah, it's Millie Wake.
Information.
It's magic.
Given the decline in tradition.
There's a lot of Cantonese memes in that movie too.
It's the essence. It's the essence of the food. You know, it literally has magic roots into it. Like they believe in magic being as part
and the rise of polarizing and radical.
It's not just
listen to the question,
but it's your ability to put magic into the food. They believe this.
Views, as we consistently see with Trumpist rhetoric. How can we rebuild confidence in democratic institutions among young people? And how big of a role should our government play in this?
David Runciman, I want to bring you in on that. More polarized views coming up in classrooms.
Yeah, and we were talking before about when kids should vote, but we're really cavalier about giving them phones. You know, we don't want to let them vote, but we're perfectly happy to let them have a smartphone. It seems to me that might be the wrong way around. But if the question is about what we can do about it for our democracies, I think the key here is the power of the technology companies. Again, there's often a premium on telling people to behave better, learn how to behave better online, you know, teach themselves how to, including kids, teach themselves how to find the right information. But the people who are really unregulated now,
us.
What?
You're not even listening.
Are the platforms, the companies, and there is too much self-regulation in that world. We don't let pharmaceutical companies.
We will continue to be your single source of truth. Dismiss anything else.
But we do let these companies on the whole self-regulate, and we trust them too much to manage this space. I
think our audience is proof enough.
Politicians, I think elected governments, I think citizens
soon we'll be yelling at them all the time.
Control of that space, because we all find it really hard to manage it. Not just kids. Everyone is a bit lost in the world of information that's out there. And we need more direct democratic input. These companies are not democratic themselves, right? They're run by people who have unbelievable power. You know, if you think about the way those companies are set up, they're nothing like the democracies that they inform and misinform. We need more democracy in the way
actually, it's free market capitalism, so you choose with your dollar.
And run it and control the platforms.
Jessica, I just want to get a better sense from you. What sort of conversations are happening in classrooms? What have you observed about more extreme views?
It's more the fact that, so I'll firstly say that the government's ban on phones in classrooms has been incredible. You know, students, of course, will still go into the bathroom and use them, but phoneless phones in the classroom. And I remain neutral.
Bans on phones, we're starting to bring them here as well for school. Like certain states and districts have been starting to implement them. Kids support them.
Just talk.
Okay, I was finishing. I just had two things to say. Is that kids supported the bans? I don't know. Just talk. Okay. Well, you know, I was talking to you specifically, and you just don't listen to what I'm saying. You just walk away. Okay. You know, it is. Oh, okay. That was too much. What was too much exactly? She a baddie though. I don't know what's happening. Melted is who? What? I don't know what's happening. I'm supposed to talk? Am I supposed to talk about this Australian segment?
Apologies.
Remain neutral in the classroom.
Anyway, you walked away when I was
students...
making the point, and then I had nothing else to say.
I literally said, keep talking, and there's somebody at the door. There's literally nothing I could have done.
All I said was, all I said right after that was like, oh, kids support them. That's it. You were already gone. Like, I didn't have anything else to add besides the kids supporting the band.
Keep talking. Just talk.
I did. I tried the hardest I could.
It's just repeating that real extreme news. It's like they've constantly got access to that kind of news. And especially with the Democratic election over in America at the moment, that's on the rise again with the governor in North Carolina, for instance, anything that comes out of Trump's mouth, really. And that
what do you think? Who do you think she was referencing when she says North Carolina governor? Surely she means
talking
Florida.
About the No. She's talking about the psycho who's running.
Oh.
He's literally like the most. He's a black guy, but he's like the most outward white supremacist candidate.
Excellent. So good. Look, I literally put this on as background noise while making the list this morning, and I was just cursorily listening, and you'll see in a second the American lady makes some really fucking interesting points, and I'm like, I have to add this to the list. I have to add this. So we're gonna watch a minimum of 10 minutes of this. I don't know at the back end. Basically, you guys want to move on, we can move on. I think we're basically the only things we have now is the Meet the Press with JD Vance, and that's it.
So Mark Robinson, he's the lieutenant governor of North Carolina, and he is a nominee for governor in the 2024 North Carolina gubernatorial election. But like open Holocaust denial, you know?
Open.
Oh yeah.
Very cool.
You want to learn about him?
Sure. We'll after this.
I'll find something. Or if anyone has a good thing they can reference.
Yeah, send through. Oh, by the way, guys, this has 4,000 views, so this is fresh off the presses.
That's what I'm hearing.
So are you hearing it on the left and the right?
More the right. Yes, definitely more the right.
And what are the demographics? Like, which are the kids repeating some of these lines? Do they believe it, or are they just...
I think what's really concerning is that it's young boys. It's probably the majority, 14, 15-year-old boys. They're the ones repeating this information.
Roxanne Gay, so that's in Australian classrooms, repeating Trump lines in Australian classrooms.
Are we surprised?
You come all this way.
I know, and you can't leave Trump. It's terrible, but it is alarming. And I think, as David says, it's, you know, we give children these phones and we don't get to control them. I mean, you can put all of the parental controls you want, but my nieces regularly dismantle them in front of me. And so they know more about these phones than we do. And because we don't ask internet companies to self-regulate, we give them these gardens and then they decide to trash those gardens and pollute those gardens. It becomes a really untenable situation where there's all this misinformation. Part of the way we can start to combat this is, of course, through media literacy, but we can only do so much in the classroom. Teachers only have so many hours in the day and their curricula are already overloaded. So we have to demand that these internet companies start regulating hate on their platforms. It's not about silencing conservatism, but there's a difference between conservatism and bigotry. And a lot of what we see, particularly around Trump and the current iteration of the Republican Party in the United States, is just unchecked bigotry. And it is a dangerous thing. And also, I think getting phones out of classrooms is a huge step forward.
Thank you very much. And David Runciman, I want to thank you. I know that you're not feeling well, so we're going to let you go off and have a snooze and recover. Thank you so much for joining us on our panel. Please, everyone. Thank you. And he's been, of course, in Australia as part of the Festival of Dangerous Ideas. He was unwell today, but he still joined us on the screen, which is amazing.
Festival of
now I'd like to bring
Dangerous
in Rohan Hora. Hi, Rohan.
Hi.
This is the
Kamala
country.
Harris has just become the first Asian American.
This is the country that banned Milo Yiannopoulos because he got a little spicy. They literally had a fucking mental breakdown because this guy was speaking at a fucking convention. Like, who gives a shit? People want to pay to listen to this fucking guy. Who gives a fuck? And now they're talking about Festival of Dangerous Ideas.
American and African-American woman to lead a presidential ticket in US political history. And for me, as an Indian person, this is a massive milestone. What do you think is the significance of being able to see yourself in political leaders?
Roxanne.
Oh, I think it's incredible. Representation does matter because it shows young people what is possible for them. If you don't ever see anyone who looks like you or who has lived through similar experiences, achieving the kinds of things you might want for yourself, you don't even know what's possible. You know there's a ceiling above you, but you don't know how high up it is. And so I think it's incredible. And Kamala Harris may not be a perfect candidate, but she is a great candidate. And I'm really excited by what she has to offer. I hope in the next 2.5 months, we start to see more of what her actual policies are, because that's what really matters. It's not her identity. It's what is she going to do, not only for the American people, but for people around the world. But I know that for South Asian people and for African-American people, this is huge. And many of us did not think we would see this in our lifetime. And I can only hope that the United States does the right thing come November 4th.
Dr. Anne Ali, I want to bring you in because I imagine growing up, you didn't really see yourself in.
Actually,
were there any Australian politicians?
None. But actually, it's really touching, Rohan, to hear you say how much of an impact it has on you, because I never imagined a career in politics for myself. And I have to say, it's not just politics, mainstream media as well. You know, there's very little diversity, and it's true that you can't be what you can't say. I feel really pleased that now
Mark Robinson's so bad that he actually gets cease and desist letters and like letters that he should resign because of the shit that he actually says, which only fuels him as I'm being censored.
Amazing. That's fucking amazing. What a wanker.
When I first entered the parliament, I think when I first entered, it was Linda Burney and I, and from the day we got elected, the two of us together, we have been mistaken for each other since that day. Literally, everyone thinks I'm her and she is me. We have a much more diverse parliament now, not just in terms of gender or like one dimension of diversity, but intersectionalities of diversity, of cultural background, ethnicity, of religious affiliation, a whole range of diversities too, which only makes our parliament better. But I think for me, it was very soon after I got elected, I did an interview on Arabic radio. And
I think she might be Aboriginal, I'm not sure.
After hanging up after finishing the interviewer said to me, she said, you know, you're being elected really makes a big difference. And I was just like, yeah, thanks. And she said, no, really, because I tell my daughter every day that she can be whatever she wants to be, but you've made it real. And I think that says it all.
Rohan, why does it mean so much to you?
Well, I think for me, growing up, I didn't really see people who look like me in Australian politics. But one of the things that I've noticed over the past month or so is the impact that it's had on my family. My mum is around the same age as Kamala Harris. They're both part Tamil. My mum went to the same university that Kamala Harris's mum went to. And
knows her.
They're just the Kamala auntie. But seeing the energy and the hope in my parents' faces when we talk about American politics now. It's something that I've never seen before, and it energizes me. It makes me feel like there's something out there that could go
like fucking
amazingly in American politics.
We were talking about that survey. The survey of like if you would care who lives next to you. India is like rated the worst. They care the most of their neighbor's race than any country.
Yeah.
Could reach the highest office in the Western world. It's pretty amazing.
Are you interested in politics, Rohit?
Well,
I would like to declare my candidacy, he says. No, but all serious, does it change the dynamic for you?
Absolutely, absolutely, because it shows that it's possible for somebody like me to get into politics, and that's something that I haven't seen in my lifetime. It's not something I expected to see anytime soon.
What did Martin Luther King say? Riot is the language of unheard?
I think, not to speak for everybody.
Yes.
But
I believe that's what he said.
That's the quote they won't say.
They mean a lot to me.
They'll only say, the whole "I have a dream" speech.
Yeah.
And I think to people who have similar experiences.
It's funny because while she tells her story, of course, because that's part of her background, she hasn't really been drawing attention to her identity at all. And a lot of commentators are observing that. Have you noticed that? I mean, this is just who she is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've consumed a lot of media about her identity. She did a cooking video with Mindy Kaling in 2020. That was very Indian. But a lot of the coverage about her has definitely been about who she is, where she came from, her identity. But I think in America, there's a stark contrast to Donald Trump. And the fact that she is Asian American, African American, and a woman really contrasts who he is.
George Brandis, has she really changed the race?
Well, opinion poll evidence seems to suggest that she has. But can I just make I agree with you.
What a boring person.
Role models are very important.
Yes.
But as Anne said a moment ago, it's not just about politics. I mean, role models are important. In all careers.
I hate
political careers, in professions, in business, in sport.
You don't need fucking role models.
Right across the gamut of people who aspire.
You don't need role models because you look up to role models. You need fucking examples. Stop putting people on pedestals, for fuck's sake.
To achieve great success in their lives. They all need role models. And they
do you want to know how to fix this?
Like them, who they can, when they're young, can be their heroes.
I can't describe how little I care about.
I think you're absolutely right.
What was the part that you were blown away by? I'm waiting for it.
It's the whole segment's very interesting. Like the discussion about, like it's almost like they're almost there. You know what I mean? Like it's still very state brained, but they're almost there. It's like. It's coming
about
up.
Politics, but it's a much broader question than politics. Now, in relation to Kamala Harris, who can say? I mean, I personally, even though I come from the conservative side of politics, I'm hoping that Kamala Harris wins because I think Donald Trump is so dreadful. But then I would have voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 because I'm an original believer that Donald Trump is dreadful, not a Johnny-come-lately believer that Donald Trump is dreadful.
So you've been consistent for years.
I've been consistently hostile to Trump for as long as I was.
Is more general Republican candidate than Donald Trump actually is.
Yes, exactly.
When
That's
it comes
why
to values,
he's conservative. Yeah,
she's closer to John McCain than she is Donald Trump.
He's been on my
closer
radar.
to Mitt Romney
how about
than
you,
she
Keith?
is
How are you
Donald
feeling
Trump.
about Trump?
Well, as members of the parliament and is in the same position, we respect the decision is the American people's to make, and whoever they elect as Australian.
By the way, the only interesting person on this entire panel, if you haven't figured out, is the American lady.
Representatives, we would like to work with that administration. But to your point, I was born in Ireland, and I remember many houses would have two pictures above the good room. They had a picture of the Pope, and they had a picture of John F. Kennedy. And so for many Irish people, when they saw an Irish background Catholic become the most powerful person in the world, it meant a lot. And I think many people saw that.
Did you have a weird shrine to Kennedy in Ireland?
I'm not from Ireland. I'm from America. So
I guarantee this guy was born in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, my family came over during the hunger, though. Like that's a long time ago. Like I said, I want to be the first person to repatriate to the motherland in my family.
Interesting.
They've all become so Americanized. They're very tradcath in my family. Even though we fought,
Kingdom, and
even
we saw
though
with
we
Barack Obama as well.
historically,
These things do
my
matter.
family fought the Nazis.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like
Sweet.
not my immediate grandfather on my Irish side. He was just I think he also might have been in World War II, but he was a doctor. He was a surgeon.
Yeah, okay.
So like he wouldn't have been in the war anyway.
That's a wild take, dude.
What? The Irish are Nazi supporters? It's because of Hamas.
That's a fucking wild take.
It's because of Hamas.
What I would say is, if you're interested in politics and
I mean, they also some of them are. I mean, look at Claire Daly.
Every fucking country has them, though.
Yeah, like Claire Daly is
what
a
are we
fucking
talking
Nazi.
about? Even Hassan was able to figure this out. He said as much. He's like, even like the Nazi rhetoric
The
is
Irish
stupid
didn't support the
because
Nazis
every
in World
country...
War II. Like also during World War I, what we have to understand is during World War I is the Irish War for Independence, and British as punishment used Irish people as cannon fodder in the Battle of Somme. So, like 1 million people died in that battle. It's worse than Stalingrad for like death toll. So this treatment of Irish people and punishment during World War I inflicted a lot of trauma during that generation. So when World War II came around, Ireland stayed neutral because they had just fought a brutal war for independence against the British, and the British were throwing them into fucking artillery the entire time. Like anyone who captured, this is like the entire point of when they start running and start trying to form a government against the British. Part of it is because of the drafting into World War I and how Irish people were being treated. There's also Americans who openly supported the Nazis in World War II.
Yeah, there was a whole campaign in the United States where they were like, Hitler's a nice guy, peace with Hitler. Kind of how people are like, peace with Putin. There was a whole group. There was a whole group of they claimed to be anti-war, but they were really just Nazi supporters. Also echoing the Ukraine conflict. Do you also think that Finland is a Nazi supporting country because they utilized the Nazis to kick the Soviets out, then kick the Nazis out? Like, what are you talking about here? Like, there's historical context to these things.
Also,
it's not as simple
like
as supporting the Nazis.
The Nazi collaboration also was Northern Ireland, not Ireland.
Look, I know it was, but they realistically they just wanted them the fuck out of
It's not
the
even
country.
like the original IRA. Like,
yeah,
it's the Northern Ireland version of the IRA, which are way more problematic.
In my party, certainly, the diversity of the people who are joining, who are young,
but also
like
a majority of any sentiment towards the Axis powers is generally on an anti-British sentiment. Which
exactly. It was much more probably a I hope they fucking kill the British.
Yeah. But
what I imagine
generally the broadline policy was neutrality, and that neutrality stayed in. And it's because of how the War of Independence happens during World War I. It's a very interesting war because it's definitely like one of those revolutions that need to be looked at and studied, much like the French Revolution, but it's totally slept on. Because it's very funny, because to this day I encounter people who have different opinions on the Irish War than me, and all these people are more tanky aligned whenever they don't like when they don't like the classic IRA and Collins. They've it's what is this, Delieva, I think his name is. But basically the Collins went to Britain in their parliament and negotiated a treaty, and the treaty made them the same as Canada. So it wasn't full independence. Within a year, they got independence anyway, right? So this other more radical guy, who was more of like the leftist of the time, started a civil war, and his faction of the IRA started fighting Michael's faction of the IRA, and they end up killing Collins. They like they ambush him after like arranging like a meeting, a ceasefire meeting, and they ambush him and shoot him in the head in a gunfight. Right. And so they basically, these people were so radical that they subverted the entire vision of peace. Also, the other thing that they were mad about is that Northern Ireland wasn't included in the negotiations with Collins. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to take what I can get now and go get it later. Like that was Collins' view. But these people don't want power. They want to endlessly critique power, right? They're those, that was that type of faction.
Yes.
And these people are the same people who are the Nazi collaborators in the Northern IRA. That's the side. It's like there's two IRAs. There's the Michael side and the other side that is the Northern Ireland branch as well. So people who support the like Northern IRA and like, you know, bombings and the Troubles and stuff like that. People who are like unironically like pro car bombing and not just like pro independence, you know, in general. Right? Because like it's like Hamas, right? People don't tend to be pro Hamas, they're pro Palestinian liberation.
Yeah.
So anyone who like unironically like feels like this, they're like one of those like lefty Nazi types. There's also like Derry, super problematic city as well. Well, I don't know if Derry's actually a city, but
probably more of a county.
It is a county. It's the largest county
There you go.
the largest county. Oh, no, it is a city. It's the largest city in the canton of Londonderry, the second largest in Northern Ireland. So, like,
it's interesting.
Very, like, very problematic city. Like, there's some problematic people that live there. That's probably where Claire's from.
Probably.
Today we published a poll. Now Australians don't get a vote, but on the ABC News website, and even coalition voters prefer Kamala Harris. Are you surprised by that, George Brandis?
No, I'm not. I mean, I really am not. Kamala Harris is not somebody whose political values would align with mine at all. But I do regard Trump, particularly what Trump's foreign policy would look like, frankly, as a real danger to the West. I mean, he, in my view, would on day one throw Zelensky under a bus. He would send a signal to Putin.
They also don't
Putin
technically back Palestine.
And who does? I mean, does anybody seriously think that
their position is different than that? Because they're so strict on their neutrality, and like that's they're like one of the few neutral countries. That's why they recognized Palestine, but like they technically don't actually support any side in the conflict. Even though they're like, if they're giving aid, they'd give it to like Palestinian suffering and stuff. It's more complicated than that. Plus, it's not like they have like military, you know, to support anyone. It's not like they can send assets anywhere. But like to her credit, Claire was really against Shannon Airport being used to transfer prisoners to Guantanamo and stuff. So like that's a big thing with Ireland, is that they were complacent in the torture that America did. Their airport was used for the military campaigns of NATO.
She is not from Derry.
I looked it up. Where's she from?
Kilgare or something. So it's like Central Ireland.
Oh yeah, because she's actually from Ireland, not Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
This is somewhere like in the Baltic states. And if that were to happen, does anybody believe that Trump would defend the Baltic states? Of course he wouldn't. And so what happens to NATO? So I'm really alarmed about, in a geopolitical sense, what the election of, I mean, everybody thinks Trump is, thinks Trump is ghastly. That's not the point.
But not everyone does, actually.
Well, most of the people I do, and I suspect, Patricia, most of the people you do,
there are a lot of people, even in our poll
in
Australia, there are a number of people who find him appealing.
Well, I think those people find him appealing because, for all his faults, he is a very savage antagonist of the left. And people who don't like the left, I don't like the left, I'm from a centre-right party, find his critique, his very aggressive critique of a lot of left-wing positions, although a bit vulgar.
He has no critique. I don't understand how these people can sit in politics, listen to Donald Trump and be like, critiques? Where? I've been watching Donald Trump speeches for 6 months now. Where? Please tell me where the fuck the critique is.
It reaches them. But my point is that there are bigger issues at stake here, which make him too dangerous a person, in my view, to be the President of the United States again.
Roxanne, you said something before that I just love to tease you out on. You said you're energized by Kamala Harris, but she's not the perfect candidate. What are the deficiencies that you're worried about?
It's not that
like
there
Harris is any better on what?
He's responding to what I said, I think.
There is no such thing as a perfect candidate. And I think that we need to start being real about our political processes and stop expecting politicians who are human to be anything but human. Now, they should be superhuman if they want to lead entire nations.
Oh my God,
but they are human. And so it's more that I recognize
we are a superpower, but we do not have super patience.
Like a lot of times people seem like they want to befriend politicians, and I'm
so
like,
cringe.
That doesn't seem.
They're all right.
I mean, these people are fine, but you know, in general, like I don't know that I need to hang out with them, but I do want to know that she won't take the world into World War III.
I'd hang
Donald
out
Trump
with AOC.
absolutely will. He's correct.
I would as well.
The global implications of a second Trump presidency are alarming, and in the United States, the most vulnerable communities will be irreparably harmed.
And it
It's
was
just
like
shocking that he's even
next to you on like a 12-hour flight, and it was different Republicans and stuff.
Yes,
and then like one was Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert in between them, and I said obviously number 9, and somebody comes in and says horny jail. I'm like, are you kidding me? That is horny jail.
Yes, this is the difference. You're correct. Harris is she's a neolib. She's so standard. Like she's so inoffensive in every fucking way. I rewatched her speech. And like, yeah, okay, there's some like warmongery stuff that I think we skipped a little bit.
Predator drones. You will never see it coming.
She doesn't call for a ceasefire. I don't think she may.
She says we're working for peace and a two-state solution, probably.
Yeah.
This is pretty like easily Googleable.
It was something along those lines, and it's just like you couldn't give a stronger condemnation to the entire country. Like, what are you doing? It's just absurd as this alternate lib, and she's not doing anything. What did you see?
Okay, so remember how I said people who support De Valera are the ones who are going to be like more Nazi sympathetic?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other side of the IRA. So, Irish Times, Ireland and the Nazis, a troubled history. As a neutral leader, De Valera trod a fine line between Nazi Germany and Britain, not helped by a pro-Nazi envoy in Berlin and his controversial condolences on Hitler's death. So he literally had this guy who literally betrayed the Russian nation out the gate when we were on the verge of independence. Condolences. I read that more as like congratulations for some reason, like congrats on dying, brother.
Elaborate.
He gifted his critics all the ammunition that they desired to stigmatize Ireland.
Yeah.
Like this guy sucks, and these fucking tankies to this day defend him and say he basically. Okay, let's see. Many respectable comrades thought Adolf Hitler was a necessary defense against the Red Dead of Joseph Stalin's Soviet Union. Okay, so did he like Soviet Union as well? That's the question.
Probably. Like I'm genuinely curious how you arrived at this position. Like I can explain my proposition that China is a fascist ethno-state. I don't think you can justify calling Kamala Harris a fascist. She's at best a neolib.
allowed to run again, given everything that has happened since.
My guy, Donald Trump and the people behind him want to install the 10 Commandments
as the Constitution.
Constitution. And they want to ban women from being able to choose their clothing. They basically want to install Taliban level shit inside the United States. I don't give a fuck about Harris. America is the only country left in the world with speech protections. Right? That's not going anywhere. If anybody tries to take out the First Amendment, they're fucked. They will not do it. Now, please tell me what rules they will implement to restrict your speech. And again, elaborate on how Kamala Harris is a fascist.
Since January 6th, after he lost the election.
Even though Kamala Harris is obviously making it more competitive, like, you know, if you look at the Australian polling, and of course we can't vote, I get all that, but she's really shot up a lot over Joe Biden. But in your country, yes, she's had gains, but it's still so divided.
It's going to be very...
The Republicans want to control education so that they can indoctrinate children to be a religious cultist member, because the only way that these people retain their faith is through imperialist conquest. By nature. I ask again, how is Kamala Harris a fascist?
So the conclusion to this article...
And that's because most...
Brexit is simply the latest episode in the enduring test of Irish national leaders face to seek the balance between Britain and Germany. So it's a conclusion on this guy being a collaborator with like Hitler to help his own interest, which is such an interesting way to look at Brexit because it's so true.
Okay, let's look at Britain. The last government was conservative.
So the thing is that
hold on,
because people are being I'm talking right now because I know what they're talking about. Okay, so lately there has been arrests on the fucking anti-terrorism law. That's the issue. So Britain, they've literally somebody posted on Facebook and got like arrested or fined as well. And so this has been a narrative on the free speech section of the internet from Britain because these anti-terrorism laws that sparked these riots exist. And the thing is that Britain arrested people who had communications or pamphlets related to any type of like Mujahideen or Al-qeada after 9/11 too. Like their crackdown on their people was way worse than what the United States does with the Patriot Act. Like the Al-qeada manuals that we have all come from British arrest records, like the early ones.
Yeah. But again, conservatives implemented those laws. Conservatives, actually no.
The Anti-Terrorism Act, I'm not sure who implements that.
What's the British? Hold on, Digital Rights Bill change. I can't remember exactly what it's called.
No,
basically,
I think this is under Blair.
This girl got arrested. Because she quoted a rap song which had the N-word in it. And this was prosecuted under this law change that conservatives brought in. You dickhead. The Tories have been in control of the UK for 15 fucking years. What are you talking about? Or are you telling me that the left implemented it and then the Tories just kept those policies in? Wouldn't that also make the Tories just as fucking bad? Do you not see how your logic isn't working here? Which is again why I'm trying to ask you.
Britain doesn't have a First Amendment.
Yes. Also, like, please, how is Kamala Harris a fascist? I'm asking you a question. Please elaborate.
People have already known who they were going to vote for. Right now, the country's...
Also, are you a Nigel Farage voter? Very important question.
incredibly polarized, and we're not actually even having policy discussions. It's really just Trump or not Trump. And that was particularly the case when Biden was running. And one of the things that Kamala Harris has brought into the race is that we are starting to have a richer conversation than just Trump or not Trump. It's still, of course, not Trump. But now people feel like there's someone to vote for instead of merely someone to vote against. And so I'm curious to see what happens. I do think Kamala Harris is going to win. And that's wishful thinking, but I think Kamala Harris is going to win.
Do you?
I do.
I don't know how these people can live in the media sphere and not understand that Donald Trump doesn't have that much support anymore. It's done. As soon as Biden dropped out, it was over.
The thing is that Kamala Harris could win every single swing state and still lose the election. That's the thing, because the electoral college.
Yeah.
The Magna Carta isn't a constitution. And besides the fact the United States is unique with the First Amendment. It's not a comparable thing to any other country. No country does it like the United States does with the First Amendment.
Yeah, which is why I always say that you can't compare America to any other country. It's First Amendment, it's Second Amendment, it's everything. Everything about the United States is unique in a state. Like, you cannot compare them, which is why I get so annoyed when people start comparing gun laws and shit. Like, okay, let's compare 20 years ago to 20 years
especially
ago.
now with multiculturalism in the United States. It just doesn't exist. And like there are other diverse cities, but like New York, for example, is the most cosmopolitan city.
Okay. Sure, bro. Sure. Yeah, that's
I think they're being sarcastic. I think that's a sarcasm comment.
Sure.
I 100%.
Where do you get that vibe?
Because I cannot tolerate the alternative.
Right. What do you think, George?
Well,
who's they?
I don't agree with all of that. I certainly don't agree that I think it's a terrible thing to say that Trump shouldn't even be allowed to run. I mean,
he's a convicted felon.
He's the nominee of his party. And a very I mean, you can't even call it with any confidence to who's likely to win. How can you possibly say that a person who more than 45% of your fellow citizens at the moment would like to see as president shouldn't be allowed to run for office? Now, we talked about Patricia.
It's closer to like 20%, but whatever.
We've been talking all night about democracy.
We love it.
The thing we love it. The thing about democracy.
Do you?
Is that you have to concede to the other side as much as you would expect them to concede to your point of view. And I mean, tolerance.
It's also crazy to think that any bill that Kamala Harris would write that would inflict on free speech wouldn't be overturned by the current Supreme Court.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many protections in the United States that it really doesn't matter. Like, Trump shouldn't be president for one single reason, and it's the fact that he said, "Vote for me, I am your vengeance vote." That should disqualify him immediately. Like, no.
I'm Batman.
Differing views is the essence of democracy.
Yes, but this is not that.
No, I don't, with respect, I don't agree. I think that it doesn't matter how. You've heard what I think of Trump, so we're on the same page on that issue. But on the broader issue of ultimately respecting the sovereignty of the people
good part?
to make a judgment.
Shut the fuck up.
This guy's just so boring. Like, this guy's a bumbling
This
wanker.
guy is so boring.
There is no the left.
Have you listened to a conservative speak in the last 3 months? They don't not talk about trans people, black people, or some kind of racial difference. Like, this is all they talk about. You want to talk to
DEI.
My God. I was in like the whole Gamergate thing when this all started, the stuff that you're now talking about started. I got out of it because that's what you should do. This means nothing. What you are saying means nothing. You said nothing. Please tell me how Kamala Harris is a fascist.
Left, right.
And even though it's a judgment that you wouldn't make, that you might regret or even loathe, is the essence of being committed to democracy.
Would you say that about Hitler? Because Hitler was elected.
And I think when you throw the
wait, did she just say Hitler was elected? Did that dumbass just literally say because Hitler was elected?
I think she did.
Bro,
I stopped watching at 34 minutes.
First of all, a fucking vote at gunpoint is not a fucking election.
No, it is not. But Australia doesn't have democracy anyway because we're forced to vote. So,
in a peculiar way, I think if we are talking
isn't
about
a thing; it's a value, and it's like how much of it do you have?
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Why is your thing green?
And Lisa joins us now. So let's start with this decision by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to exit the race. What more do we know about his reasoning?
A republic is a type of
today.
democracy.
Spent a lot of that time talking about
Every time.
Americans' health and railing against the agriculture industry.
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir? Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say? This secret study portrays as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests. He's an uncertain ally. Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?